Okay, I'd like to share with you just a couple more techniques and a couple more ideas that I find very helpful, and my students do, and maybe you'll like them too. Again, I stress that you should have a sense of ease on the violin, and one thing that I like to do before I start my practice on the violin, I don't have the violin up yet. Well, maybe I'll just start by tuning it. And then I like to do some loosening up exercises that I've gotten from different places. I start with something very simple, swinging the arms up and down like this. You can see it. Just up and down in a relaxed way. When they're up, just let them fall, don't push them down. It's helpful with all of these to bend the knees very slightly. Gives you better balance and rootedness. And then I do the following few exercises that actually when I was a young man, believe it or not, I studied Kung Fu off and on for a number of years. And we started our classes like this, just to loosen up. We do these circles. And I'll turn so you can see them from different angles. Okay. And then back forwards. That was backwards, now back forwards, see? And we do this one. We turn from the hip, and we swing the arms accordingly. The back arm actually touches the back. It's a very nice loosening up exercise. This one I actually got to briefly study Tai Chi, the very first move. Just up and down with the wrists. Don't exaggerate too much, don't strain, just up and down. And then one I kind of invented myself. Feel like you're stretching kind of the tendons from here up. I'll turn around a little bit, you can see from different angles. And I find these exercises to be very helpful. It's also good not only to warm up, but to warm down. So after you finish your practice session, after you finish your rehearsal, I find these very, very helpful to do. Now I'd like to share with you a few practice tips. Now, especially for students of mine, try not to get too frustrated or discouraged, especially the early stages. It seems like I'm telling you a million things to keep in mind at the same time. And you say, I'm never going to get it, it just seems impossible. Little by little, you will internalize it more. You still have to pay attention. In fact, never one day goes by when I don't think about at least some of the basics. At the same time, as you isolate some of these movements and then you put them together, some of it will come more naturally and be more of a part of you. A couple of tips for getting passages a little bit more reliable. I find it very helpful to practice in rhythms. What shall I use as an example? Maybe something from the Beethoven, like, you know, the... It's certainly not the hardest passage in the Beethoven on that very page, but it serves as a good example. It's easy in some way where it's not that hard, and yet it's hard to make it really even. And oddly enough, to help for evenness, it helps to play it uneven in a very particular way with rhythms, dotted rhythm. Like that, or reverse dotted. That's very helpful to do. Another thing that will help is if you're having trouble with a particular passages, getting them even, certain virtuoso runs, I find a few very simple things really help. Again, which can be exaggerated. When you're getting closer to performing it, you have to come away from that, make it almost not noticeable if it does any violence to the musical message. just sometimes a well-placed accent. We often tend to swallow up notes. While I'm thinking of it, let me just go back to the previous Beethoven. Another thing that's good to do is to connect. Like, for example, instead of... we start like that, but then connect to the next segment. And that will show you, for example, I play that out of tune, let me get back to it. So it shows us where we need to focus ourselves. I started to talk about an accent. After a while, it stops being a physical accent, becomes a mental accent. So instead of, for practice purposes, but after a while, we just kind of think about it. Sometimes I'll actually write in my part an accent, but in parentheses, and by that I mean a mental accent. Sometimes just a slight tenuto will keep us from running away with it. Now, again, if it doesn't seem right from a musical point of view, then again, keep it just on a mental level. And that alone can help keeping from rushing to the next note. And finally, something that I kind of evolved on my own, no teacher ever told me this. We're trained, or should be, to pay attention to what we're doing and pay attention to anything that goes wrong. Maybe it's intonation, maybe it's shifting, maybe it's string crossing, maybe it's finger action, something to do with the bow, something to do with the coordination. All those are extremely important things. But I have another concept that is not instead of it, because I totally believe in that, it's complementary to it. And that is to think about, sometimes pay attention to what we're doing right. Here's what I mean. Let's say we're working on a particular passage that's giving us trouble. Maybe 4 out of 5 times we miss it. 1 out of 5 times we get it. That's actually very significant, because the time that we got it, we must have done something different. Something went right. Even if it's 1 time out of 5, 1 time out of 10, something went right. We must have done something different. If we can somehow trace our steps, what did I do that time? It did feel a little bit different. Oh, I just did. It could be a seemingly minor thing, which had a major positive effect. Now, if we can get conscious of that, we can definitely increase our batting average, as it were. That's not a guarantee that you'll do it every time, but you'll definitely increase your batting average with such passages when you become aware of what you did differently that was good. Finally, we've been getting into all these technical things. Let's remember that technique is only a means to an end. The end is making beautiful music. Technique is a bridge between what's here and what actually comes out here. So let's keep the musical goal in mind and keep on trying to make progress. Thank you.